What is up, everybody? So today I'm at a job and I'm working on an aquarium that we've had for probably about going on a little over a year now. Now this fish tank is over 10 years old, and when we first got the job, the customer was a little frustrated because he wasn't able to keep any coral. Everything in his tank was dying and it just was looking really bad. It was looking awful. The client was this close to just being done with the whole thing and just trashing the fish tank and giving up his fish. So this was pretty much the last chance for the tank. So over the past year, we've been just working on trying to, get the aquarium cleaned up, get things to live again. He did not have a service company. He was doing it himself. And unfortunately, he's a really busy person. The tank got kind of left behind. So he hired us and we made some adjustments. Now, the first adjustment was the salinity was really, really high. So usually you want your fish tank about 35 parts per thousand. This tank was closer to 40. So we had to slowly make the adjustments to get the salinity level to where we needed it. Second of all, there was hardly any water changes. There was a lot of detritus, a lot of sludge in the tank that we had to do, gravel vacs and change out the filtration and things like that just to make sure the tank was clean again. We went from having a tank that had no life in it to a tank now that looks pretty good. We're not where we want to be completely. There's some equipment issues that we want to deal with, but let's go ahead and go inside and take a look at it. Now I'm in the midst of doing a water change right now, and we're here probably once a month, to be honest, but you can see right now, look, nothing in this tank was surviving, absolutely nothing. No coral would live. We have some of our original fish here, but let's go ahead and go over some of the coral that we put in here that we've been successful with for the past about 6 months now. We have a nice looking Duncan Coral right here. Look at all the heads on that thing. That started off with like about 3 heads. And it's just exploded within about an 8-month period, I would say. These anemones, these rose bubble tip anemones, I mean, every time I come here, there's another one. It's crazy. We started off with one. I think right now we got 3 or 4 of them, which is gonna be a problem because this type of anemone splits really quick and they're starting to take over. You can see they've taken this whole rock area up over here, and then we have one back over there. So we gotta be careful and watch those guys. If they become too many, they look great right now, but if there's too many of them, they're gonna become a real problem. All this rock was just covered in sludge. We had to take all the rock out and just vacuum out all the sludge that was in between the rock. And the sand as well was just thick with detritus, and we had to gravel vac all that out. You can see we still have some vermitid snails in here. If you look closely, you can see the vermitid snails, those little tubes that pop out right there. And they release like these little streamers. You can see there's a big one right there, right there. We still have those to deal with, so we'll bring some bumblebee snails to take care of those. But you see, toadstool polyps are out, looking healthy. Hammer corals looking bright and fully extended, which is good to see. We got some pallies over here. Some polyps over. We got a mushroom. More Euphyllia. The Euphyllia is really doing well in this tank. You can see the other side of the hammer or the Duncan Coral. Look at this big old clown. This clown's been in this tank this whole time. So this clownfish is probably over 8 years old. And it never had an anemone or anything in the tank. So this clownfish was really excited when we put those anemones in. Finally got a little place to call home. You see the other anemone that floated over here. Now this thing, look how big it is. It's already stretching out, and it's worrisome because if it starts stinging this hammer coral on this side, that's gonna be a problem. Plus it doesn't give us much room to add more corals if these anemones keep spreading the way they do. So I'm gonna talk to the customer about maybe taking some of those out. Another hammer coral over here, growing all through the rock. You see another one is over here. So yeah, things are pretty good. Now there are some issues that we still have to address, but I'm really happy things are starting to live, and the coral that are in here are taking off. Definitely want to add some more corals, but we definitely have to address this anemone situation before we do that. But there's plenty of real estate in here for more corals. Now, as far as the fish go, we have that clownfish there. We have a damsel back there. Another type of clownfish there. 2 different types of clownfish. There's a tomato right there. You You have 2 Colombian catfish. And there is a dragon goby right here. And he is the reason why the sand is all messed up. If you take a look, that dragon goby's just been sifting all the sand, and that's where you can see all these bald spots. That's where you see all these bald spots right here. That dragon goby's just taking all the sand and just spitting it out everywhere. And there's a Colombian catfish. They're so cool looking. They look like little sharks. Eventually they're gonna outgrow this tank pretty soon, so we'll address that. There's a coral banded shrimp. Looking for some food. We do have some aggressive fish in this tank, but overall, everybody seems to be getting along pretty good. It's because they've been together for so many years. Now, the biggest change I think that helped with this tank and with the coral being able to survive, and you start getting some of that coralline algae on the rocks right now, and the tank kind of leveling out, being a little healthy, was the addition of these AI primes. On this tank before was a current marine LED light, and it was just awful. It wasn't growing anything, too low of a light, wasn't the right spectrum. It was a huge upgrade getting these AI primes on here. And the controllability, this was a must-have for the tank. We had to get rid of those current marines. Those just didn't do the job. But big fan of the aqua-illumination prime lights. They do tremendous. They're $200 a light, and I think that's pretty relatively good price for an LED light comparative to what's on the market. 2 of those on here, 2 of the AI primes on here, really made a world of difference in the health of the tank. Now, the filtration is crazy simple. Like I said, this tank is very old. You have your very small sump. I mean, this thing is tiny, tiny. And you just have your return water here. A little bit of filter floss. Got some biomedia in there. Kind of the old school setup. And then literally, no protein skimmer, no nothing. You go straight into this return section. That's your return. We need to replace that pump because that thing's going pretty quick. We need to replace that return pump because I've noticed today when I put my hand in the tank, there was a little bit of electric shock, and you can tell by hearing it that the motor's starting to kind of go. So we're gonna have to address that too. And that's it, simple. Very small sump. Maybe, hopefully in the future, with the customer's permission, we can get something a little bit bigger and a couple more, a little bigger. We can add a protein skimmer in here, but for now, it's doing the job. It's doing pretty good. So this return pump right here, I put my hand in there and it gave me a pretty good electrical shock. So that's definitely an issue that we're gonna have to address in the near future. Next visit, hopefully we can have a return pump for him because this one's pretty much shot. This is what came out of the old filter floss. Look at that, look at the gunk in there. That's the old carbon, and that's the old filter floss. That's nasty. Ooh, well, that's a month. And trust me when I say it smells a lot worse than it looks. Oh, I got some company today on the job. Look at this little guy. You and me both, pal. You just got this one power head right here. Old school power head. That blows, that keeps the water circulating. Like I said, this isn't a fancy setup, but the results are there, and the coral and the fish are all healthy, and they're all happy, and they're all thriving. We will make some upgrades, but we can make those upgrades slowly and over time. Now, for as old as this aquarium is, you can see some of the silicone here starting to wear away. It's not terrible. It's not, the worst I've seen, but it's starting to erode. Just gotta be very careful when cleaning the glass not to get too close to those sides. Now that's about as far as I'm gonna take it for today. That's about half. That should do us for about the month. Let's go ahead and pump back in. I love this Clarkie clownfish. It's almost like it has eyelids, like little eyelashes. Such a beautiful, beautiful clownfish. And being that there's a tomato clown in here too, and we all know how aggressive those are, and a damsel, I mean, it's pretty peaceful. But they have been in here for a long time, so they all kind of got used to each other. So in closing, I'm just very happy that we were able to get this tank looking good again and coral back in the tank and things are surviving. Not just surviving, but thriving. I'm happy we could do that for the customer and reignite his passion into the hobby again. So, so far it's a success. We still have a lot of work to do and I'll keep you guys posted. All right, thank you so much for watching. Have a good one.